for ourselves. Also, you can call us live on the show, by the way. You can call us or text us live. That's right. We are here for you. So in case you have any question, in case you have any comments, whatever it is, you can call us and we will be here to take your call. So the number to call us or text us through is 0810 608 1681. That's 0810 608 1681 or 0818 202 5883. I've been told I'm quite fast with these numbers. That's why I'm taking it slow, so everyone can get a chance to be a part of the show. I have one question for you, though. Are you ready? If you are, let's get right into it. Last week, we talked about all of the possibilities and benefits of being part of the banked population in Nigeria. We talked about so many things you can get access to. And I imagine that you have joined the population of the banked in Nigeria such that you can get access to all of those benefits. By the way, you can also listen to our previous editions on our website, smegrowth.ng. But the elephant in the room, what do we have for you today? It's okay. Let's get right into it. Today, we will be showing you how to go global with your business through something called the AFCFTA. Some call it AFTA, but it's just simply the Africa Free Continental Trade Area. Okay? It's as simple as that, all right? So let's get right into it. The AFCFTA, what is it? What does it mean? How can it transform your business? How can you be better? How can you play on that global scale? I don't know about you, but everyone, I'll just speak for myself. You know what? Let me just say myself. I like to be global. I don't want to be a local champion alone. So once you've conquered your local market, it is time for you to go global. And that is what we're about to show you this evening. As always, I'm going to be introducing my guests who will be talking us through how your business, whether it is a nano, micro, small, medium, whatever size your business is, how you can scale up and go global. They will be walking us through this. And I'm going to start with the lady in our midst. We have Chioma Uzoma, who's a trade product sales, trade finance at EcoBank. Good evening. Welcome to the show.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Happy Independence.
Absolutely. Chioma is a brilliant, I mean, we had the conversation before this show, and I could tell you my panel is loaded today. So if you know someone who should be listening to the show, please take a moment and tell them to tune into Radio Nigeria, wherever they're at. All right. I also have joining us right here in the studio, Olushola Gabriel is the head strategic planning at Polaris. It's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you as well. Joining us virtually this evening are two other gentlemen whom I'll be introducing to you just right away. Emmanuel Wallo is a team lead export and agriculture at Fidelity Bank. Emmanuel, it's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. And happy Independence, everyone.
Right, and not forgetting Emmanuel Onifade as well is export liaison officer at Keystone Bank. Emmanuel, welcome. We have two Emmanuels on the show this evening. That's like a double blessing. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right into it. You know, for the sake of those who might not really understand what exactly this AFCFTA is, I'd like to begin with you, Chioma. What is AFCFTA? It's like a tongue twister. It's a long thing. We call it AFTA just to save us that long pronunciation. But tell us, what is AFTA?
Yes. Okay. So after AFCFTA,
yeah.
You know, to just spell it out for some of us who do not know what we're talking about, it's the African Continental Free Trade Area. And what is this about? It's basically an agreement, you know, that came about from the African Union. That said we need to be able to trade with ourselves within the African sub-region. You know, before now, we always trade with other people from the Europe sub-region, Asia, and, you know, the Americas. And so AU came together and said, why not? Why will our balance of payments, you know, our balance of trade be skewed towards outside of Africa, where we have a whole lot of, you know, a population within Africa that we can trade with ourselves, grow our economies, leverage on our strengths and our weaknesses, strengthen whatever weaknesses we have within ourselves, and basically, you know, eliminate whatever it is that we have, you know, physically or imaginary, those imaginary lines that we have put with between ourselves for trade, all those barriers. We need to eliminate them and be able to find some kind of common markets within the African region. And that is what happened, and then AFTA was born.
Fantastic. So you heard that from Chioma, essentially. So if you've been playing in your little space in, let's say, Kafachan or Bungudu, or you're playing in that your little space in Shaki, and you are doing fairly well, what she's trying to tell you is that with AFCFTA or AFTA, as the case may be, you can do much more. You know how people are saying, your product is good in Shaki. Guess what? You can take it beyond Shaki. You can take it outside of Nigeria to neighboring countries. You can take it to Ghana. Yes, you can actually, your product can be on the lips of people in Ghana, and it is very possible with AFTA. And that's what we're talking about this evening. So if I've not gotten your attention yet, I don't know what will. But let's even push this conversation further and speak with Olushola, who also joins us right here in our studio. Olushola, AFTA sounds fantastic the way Chioma puts it, but I don't know if you want to add anything to the objectives. Just how significant is this AFTA in promoting my business?
Yeah, thank you, Kaido. Very clearly, the more we trade within ourselves, the more we improve the capacity and the prosperity of the continent. Just look at the euro. There is the eurozone, the 67% of trade within the euro is within that economic bloc. So imagine what that means. So you conserve prosperity, you conserve wealth within the region. There's a flow of resource within the region, and that's promotes the well-being of the region in entirety. As it stands today, I think intra-African trade accounts for about 50% of trade within involving Africa. So 85% is with the rest of the world. So imagine what that means for outflow of resources from the continent. So that is one of what AFTA is looking to correct, promote intra-African trade. When we trade within ourselves, we improve the well-being of everyone for the benefit of the entire continent. And it won't be rocket science. All we need to do is just take out all the barriers to trade, all the barriers to collaboration. We've seen other continents do it. So why can't Africa do it?
Fantastic. Thank you for that one. And when you draw the similarity, or I said the difference between how we trade in Africa and how we trade with the rest of the world, it begs the question, 1.2 billion population in Africa, that's a huge market. So imagine if you can do more, just trading with your next door neighbor, trading with the country that is just close to you compared to spending time shipping all the way. So that's the idea of this conversation. We need to ensure that we capture the markets closest to us with lesser cost. And who knows, your business can just be one of the biggest businesses in the world through AFTA. And that's what we're talking about, opening your eyes to all of the great things that AFTA provides you. Let me bring in Emmanuel Wallo on this one and get your opening comments on just how revolutionary AFTA is for that nano business, that shoemaker that is in Isolo, Lagos, or that bag maker, that small business, really. Just how significant is AFTA? Because I want them to know that this is really for them. Emmanuel.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Yeah, okay, so when you talk about the importance of AFTA, I mean, we cannot but, emphasize the benefits, okay? And these benefits they come in quantum. Now, for the small business, or for the small businesses out here, the idea is that it helps to enhance their competitiveness. Remember that, we'll be dealing with outside of the world. Now, what it means is that the SME, or the micro, small, medium enterprises knows that he's now competing with the rest of the world. You're now competing with someone who is making similar product in Ghana. You are doing the same, you're competing with someone who is doing similar product in Rwanda, okay, and stuff, and all of that. So you do not but have to now increase the quality of whatever it is that you're producing, because you know that there are other people that are also competing with you. So to that extent, it enhances the quality of the product, and of course, every other action around it. So that is how it helps to enhance, what the SME does. because the SME now knows that he needs to, up his game, because he's now competing with so many people out there in the world. I mean, out there in other parts of Africa, and that is where AFTA comes in, and beyond that, there are other areas too that, it helps also to increase the level of the product quality as well. Okay, so more importantly, these are key areas: quality, one; competitiveness, two; and then of course, having to also technology transfers. Okay, because by the time you're also trading with other countries in Africa, you now know that, look, there will be that cross-fertilization of ideas, and then that helps also to improve whatever it is that the SME is doing here in Nigeria compared to other parts of Africa.
Well, thank you very much, Emmanuel. So you heard that. It just improves the quality of the products and services, makes it more competitive. There's cross-fertilization of ideas. There is so much really in this one. So without taking much time, let's dive deeper, shall we? So we know what AFTA is. At least we can say what it means. You can picture what it will do to your business, how it will transform the way you do business and all that. But there's way more than that. And I'll come back to Chioma on this one just quickly. I know AFTA is not new. It's been in the works for quite some time, and then countries agreed to it, some ratified it, and all of that. So it's been about 2 years or so now since it was officially agreed upon by African countries that let's do business with ourselves. But as of today, can you just speak to us briefly, just how operational is AFTA today? Just how much work is being done, just so that people can know that this is real or it's not fake.
Yes, so a lot is going on within the AFTA space. And yes, we may have, AFTA may have gotten off to a slow start. Part of it, COVID, slowed down the operation a bit. But, by last year, activities had revved up, countries had begun to even make connections. You can see the Rwandans were able to even, within the AFTA agreements, were able to export coffee to Ghana, within that, within the AFTA agreement. We have a lot of other companies who are gearing up within the space. The SADC block, are doing a lot of operations within the AFTA space, trading within themselves. Back home here in Nigeria, we have a lot of structures being put in place. And Nigeria, I must say, have not attained as high level of operations as maybe Rwanda right now. But of course, we can tell you that AFTA is operational in Nigeria. Structures and infrastructures are being put in place, both by the operators, the regulators are working around the clock to ensure that businesses within Nigeria can export their businesses to our neighboring African countries. A lot of connections have been made within the AFTA space, both at the micro level and then also at the higher level, to ensure that AFTA happens. So yes, AFTA is operational in Nigeria.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Chioma. So you heard that. And the point of this conversation is to ensure that you are first on the scene. Your business is first. So when they're counting the businesses that jumped on AFTA first, your business should be one of them. That's why we're giving you this scoop now, so that when it becomes even bigger than what it is now and people are struggling, you'll already be cashing out. Do you understand? I love that idea. That's why we're telling you about this. So it is still early days, but the point is the potential is huge. I mean, we talk about how Europe is doing fine. I think it was Olushola that spoke to that, how Europe trades with themselves. A lot of people want to go to Europe. It's easy to move between countries. One moment you're in France, the next you're in England, and you can just easily move around to do business. That is the goal here. Let us develop all that we have in Africa within ourselves. I don't know if Olushola wants to add to this, but I want us to begin to talk about, the benefits. So the average business can begin to see his or herself in AFTA. They can begin to imagine, oh, okay, this is what it will do to my maybe revenue, to my market size, to all of that. But you might want to add to just, the level of work that AFTA is doing right now.
Yeah, thank you, Kaido. I think I've observed that the world is increasingly getting globalized. With your concept of engagement with the world, without socially or the business economic side, is still local. we're not getting the best of the rest. If you recently, the G20 was expanded into G21, and Africa is just a block. So as we have other nations, those nations are the major powers, major economies. There has a nation.
Yeah.
The whole of Africa is just a nation, just one representation of G20. So that tells you something, that if we don't within Africa begin to look how we engage with the world and engage as a unit, they might not get in the best of this. So the objective of Harvard basically is to reduce Africa to a single market. When you have that, the sheer size of that market, 1.3 billion in terms of population, is the largest single market in terms of membership.
Yeah.
54 nations potentially. I think as at date we have about 47 already signed on. That is a huge market for anybody to neglect. Any major business, any major global player will be entirely by the prospect of that market. And if you have that market is governed by a single tariff, is governed by a single trade infrastructure, then you can begin to, your terms of trade improve automatically. And every player within that construct has a better deal. So what Africa has not been doing before now is to leverage that benefit of synergy. And that's something after potentially promises. So the benefit of after they're enormous.
Yeah.
Yes. So we as Africa, we need to ensure that we extract the most value from that potential. So I'm personally excited about it.
Indeed.
I just wish Africa would be best of it.
When he says Africa, he's talking about you, your business out there. You're that business person listening. You are the Africa. And I love the part where you said it makes Africa one single market. You know how you go to Oyibo? Essentially, I said Africa can be Oyibo. So you can get access to anybody from anywhere, sell your products, buy from anywhere. 1.3 billion population, potentially the largest. I don't know about you, but if you're making 1 naira profits on, let's say even 10% of 1 billion, let me find 1% of 1 billion, you know how much that is? That's just the potential, part of the potential that AFTA brings to your business. If this is not getting you excited, I wonder what will get you excited as a business person. But stay with us. There's still much more that will unearth for you with the AFCFTA. And I'll go over to Emmanuel now. We've talked about some of the benefits, which of course we'll build up on as we go. But let's now break it down to sectors, businesses, and see just how AFTA can transform particular businesses. And I'll begin with agriculture, agribusiness. Nigeria, we can't say enough how Nigeria is blessed agriculturally. In fact, some say we're not even started scratching the surface when it comes to agriculture in Nigeria. We have, millions of farmers, we have, processors, transporters, all of that. Just how much of a game changer can AFTA be to agriculture, Emmanuel?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so one of the things we see, especially around the agro-commodity space, is that of course, when you look at it with from the concept of our trade with other part of the world as against Africa, from what we see is export of raw commodities. So the current situation is we've been doing so much exporting raw commodities, and what that means is that we haven't been getting value from it because there has no value addition. Okay, and of course those jurisdictions prefer that because it helps to add jobs to them and all of that. Okay, but one of the things that after we do, especially with regards to trade within it, is that on the agro-commodity space, emphasis is actually on value-added products. Okay, value-added products is key. So if you look at all of the instruments, all of the policies around AFTA, it's skewed more towards trade on processed items. So to that end, what it does is that it's going to increase our capacity to process. And what that does is that when you begin to do that, you now learn how to process. So what that means is that it increases your their propensity to, increase their competitiveness in the processing of those items. And then it adds more value to you as well. But again, another thing it does is it brings about innovation. When you are in the processing space, you have to continue to innovate every other day, right? Because you're competing not just with the product, with other producers within your country, but now you're not going to be competing with producers outside of your country. So we're talking about other African countries. So to that end, if you don't innovate, then you die. So to that end, after we improve the ability of SMEs, more importantly, to innovate, we're talking about packaging, we're talking about branding, we're talking about all of the issues that will help, to make your products better. So that is what it does. It enhances our ability to process and then also to now get the value that you can get by so doing. And then again, because you are now going to be doing so much of processing, then there will be investment in research and development. And when you have investment in research and development, what that does is that it helps to up, the quality of whatever it is that you're bringing and helps to put you up there. And so at the end of the day, you will not only be competing with countries in Africa, but also with countries outside of Africa.
All right, thank you very much, Emmanuel. Fantastic point you made there. And it just reminded me of this cashew nut. There's this company, they make cashew nut and groundnut. And I'm always excited when I taste it. And I always say, I wish other people can taste this cashew nut and groundnut. If you're that company, this is time for you to start leveraging on AFTA, okay? Because imagine if I love your groundnuts, that means millions of people out there in Africa will love your groundnuts. Just imagine you capture 10% of the markets in Africa. Just remember to pay your tithe and offering, But let's move on in this conversation. We talked about agriculture. We know how much we're blessed with agriculture. So if you're a farmer out there, whatever it is you're doing in the agriculture sector, there is a space for you in AFTA, or at least you can benefit from AFTA. Let me put it correctly. But that's not all. Let's come to the manufacturing sector, because some might think I'm not a farmer, but I do, I make bags, I make shoes, I manufacture little things. How can I also leverage on AFTA? And I'm going to come to you, Chama. How can AFTA, or AFCFTA as the case is, how can it potentially change the way MSMEs do business in the manufacturing sector?
Okay, so I would like to start this way and say, I'll encourage everybody to look at the bigger picture, right? You're not a farmer and you're into manufacturing, or you do not even manufacture. There's a whole value chain within the AFCA space where you can play as an MSME business, right? So there is the logistics. Who is going to move the goods from point A to point B? Who is going to move the raw materials from the farm to the factories? Who's going to do that? So there's a whole logistics companies involved, the transportation involved, and then there is the packaging people who manufacture packaging. Those businesses have a place to play. And Kayode mentioned the cashew nut and the groundnuts he enjoys. Somebody is manufacturing the packaging for that groundnuts. He saw groundnuts tied in regular nylons, the ones in bottles, and he went for that one. Packaging was involved. Who did that? Apart from the packaging, someone did the printing on the packaging. Someone designed it. So there are graphic designers in that value chain. There are printers in that value chain. There are suppliers. There are people are going to be behind the scenes. There is the whole marketing team. Someone is going to be designing the distribution structure for these businesses. There's a whole value chain that businesses can take advantage of. And so all of these people working in their different sectors to drive the businesses, you can just begin to imagine the kind of explosive growth that happens to businesses and to individuals who have, availed themselves of, the opportunities to drive their business in whatever sector that you may be playing in that space.
Wow, fantastic. I love how you just broaden the horizon, really, because people will be stuck on, I know maybe get business, they have not started a business, but in fact, the people who do jingle, they will need voiceover artists. Did you hear that? They will need producers. I love this. So it just shows that there is actually a huge market out there. So forget all of that talk. Say market, no day. Bro, sister, markets day. And that's what AFTA brings to you, whatever space you're operating in that sector. By the way, you can be a part of this conversation. Yes, it's not just for us alone. You can call us, you can message us on 0810 608 1681 or 0818 202 5883. I'll take that again slowly. 0810 608 1681 or 0818 202 5883. If you have questions about AFTA, about your specific business, maybe we've not talked about your business and you're thinking, hey, is there space for me on this moving train? Don't worry, call us, send us a message. I have the experts here who will answer your questions. We're due for a break in just a minute. And I'd like to come to you, Olushala, on this. So I don't know if you want to add to this, but there are some people who don't have physical goods. They provide services and they're wondering, I cannot move my service through bus now. Is there a space for them in this as well?
So, Friday, thank you. Let me quickly add to what you said before I get to the question. There's a major benefit at the ASCFTA provide.
Yeah.
Because when you widen the market within Africa and your target is for the African market, there's a significant positive that holds for manufacturing activities. Africa is not, as a date, we are not leading the frontier of technology. So we can barely compete with the rest of the world on that basis. So if you are manufacturing and you want to break into the more developed markets, it's going to
be tough.
All of that. But if you are manufacturing and your catchment is the African space, I'm not by any way canvassing for mediocrity. I'm saying that the standards are lower. So you stand better chance of penetrating the African market than penetrating the more developed markets. So what I'm saying in essence is that for manufacturing sector in Africa has a significant enormous potential. Before now look at Emerson, for example. Emerson Motors is probably going to be able to sell cars to Japan. Most likely. But it might be able
to sell cars to the people that make
to sell cars to Tanzania. I'm not by any way saying that we should not improve this stuff, but at dates, these guys have centuries of history behind them. So we can't compete with them on that basis. So what I'm saying is that the standards for packaging, the standards for manufacturing is a lot higher than it's difficult for many African businesses to satisfy. But within the Africa continent, you don't expect the standard to be high. So there's, a lot more opportunities for African business to scale.
We're due for a break now. We're still going to come to the services. It's very brilliant you mentioned Innocent, because I recall that Innocent had even exported vehicles to Sierra Leone, and that speaks to the point you were making. But we'll go on this quick break. When we return, we're ready to take your calls and messages. So join us on this conversation as we look at how the AFCFTA, that's the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, can boost the way you do business. Let's go global, shall we, in a few minutes. Stay with us.
Your voice is fantastic.
I can't hear you.
Your voice is too
half of the show. I'm Kayode Okikilo, and we'll be talking about how your business can go global. It does not matter where you currently operate now, whether you are in the rural area, the urban area, whether you're operating from your room, or maybe you are even borrowing somebody else's room to run that business. Whatever it is, as far as you're doing good business, as far as you have a good product, as far as you know that your business or your product can be competitive, then the sky is your limit with the AFCFTA. That's the African Continental Free Trade Area. It's essentially an agreement that African countries came together to have that says, well, we can turn the whole of Africa into one small market. So imagine you go to a co-market, the same way you go to a co-market and it's just one market. Africa can be that eco market you just go to. People can purchase your products easily without hassle. And that's what we're talking about this evening. Chioma Uzoma is here with us from EcoBank. We have Olushola Gabriel from Polaris Bank and Emmanuel Walla from Fidelity Bank. These lady and gentlemen have decades of years of experience talking and dealing about these issues, providing solutions to businesses and customers like yourself. And they're doing this free of charge, really. It is very rare to have them in the same place at the same time, but we have dragged them here on a public holiday for the good of our nation. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying with us. I'm going to come back to you, Olushola, because before we went on break, I asked you that question about what about people that provide just services, essentially. So either you are a graphic artist, you are just into web development, some sort of service that is not tangible. Is AFTA also for them?
Oh, absolutely. Those segments of the market, particularly the service providers, are not, the inhibitions are a lot less. For example, if you're providing goods, which is physical, the infrastructural challenges across the region is well known. Yeah. But for services, particularly tech-driven services, those challenges are not there. For example, if you think of you running e-commerce business, think of the notable e-commerce businesses in Nigeria. Imagine them having to prospect of selling across Africa. You can download the app. You can, I don't want to mention names or you know them.
But it's as easy as that. Yeah?
Yes, you can download the app. Wherever you are in Africa, and they have logistic support across the continent. So imagine what that means for the size of numbers they can be posting. So that is what you see across Europe. That's it. For example, if you look at Amazon, it's present in Europe, it's present in America. That's why the owner can be the richest person on the planet at some point. So imagine what this means for businesses if those barriers are, because technology offers you that opportunity to not be aimed at by those physical barriers. So that's a lot of positives for services. Services are the need for infrastructure support, physical infrastructure is not as much for services as it is for goods. So after for service sectors, the potential to leapfrog and gain the benefit that AFTA offers is a lot more.
Got it. Yes. So you heard that whether you're providing goods or services, AFTA is for you. In fact, it looks like it's tilted more in the favor of services. And I think we've seen that over time. It looked like some services did not even need AFTA to cross border and do business across Africa. But with AFTA, it is more formalized, and at least you know that this has the support of all of the countries. You know, it's one thing to try to do business with a country and you are thinking, are they supporting me? But it's another thing to know that the government that you're doing business with, or at least the government of that country, is fully in support of what you're doing. And that's what we want you to understand with this conversation. So thank you very much, Olushola. I'm going to go to Emmanuel Walla on this next part of the conversation. And you said something, there's the movement side of it. And I know with that, a lot of people will think about customs and all that. But just before we get there, because it's very vital to the success of AFTA, I want to talk about payment, because for businesses, payment is key, how to get my money. Because I'm doing business with you in Tanzania, I cannot see you, we exchange phone calls, but how can the money land in my account as I have sent you the goods? That's usually a deal breaker for businesses. So Emmanuel, I'd like us to speak to what kind of payment platforms or payment structure will be handling the businesses we do between ourselves on the African continent with AfTA. I've heard of this Pan-African payment and settlement system. So does that mean that payment also should not be a headache with AfTA?
Okay, yeah, it shouldn't be a headache. And just like the last speaker was talking about, the transport services, under in a typical free trade area, which what countries try to do is to reduce both trade and non-trade barriers. Okay, and under the non-trade barriers, so you need to look at things like the transport, which he has spoken so much about. Another thing is financial technology services. So this is fintech right now. And then you also talk about communication services and the likes. But under the AfTA, so there has been a payment platform that has been created, which is called the PAPS. That's the Pan-African Payment System. Okay, so what that does is something that actually the Afrexim Bank was very much instrumental in. Okay, and the idea is to create a situation where there will be settlements, okay, of trade amongst countries or amongst businesses without so much encumbrance. The idea is that payment can actually be made, not necessarily in the USDs and the euros of this world. It will be made in such a way that if I'm a Nigerian business, right, and I'm doing business with another business that is in Egypt or something else, settlements can actually be done, with our local currencies. So that's actually what the PAPS, is meant to help to solve. So it is basically a payment system, that enables trade facilitation, that makes trade seamless. Okay, like I said, settlement will be done with, in the country's local currencies, and that is fantastic. Okay, so again, we cannot overemphasize.
If I could just cut in quickly, Emmanuel,
Okay.
let me come back to the studio just a moment, just pardon me on that one, and perhaps get Chioma and Olushola to also speak to that. I know Olushola was talking about transport, and you have talked about this payment system, and it's like the NIBS we have in Nigeria, the interbank settlement system. I imagine, is it similar to the NIBS we have in Nigeria, or such that there's some link between all of the banks? Because money is a big deal. I cannot give you my product and you're telling me story. But essentially, the point is there is a structure, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, which is called PAPS. Am I correct?
Correct.
So we're good on that one.
Yes.
Money should not be a headache. So in case you are thinking, how far with money? Who will give me my money? How would they, how will they convert cedis to naira or to dollar? I think that should handle that. By the way, you could join us on the conversation this evening. We're talking about going global with your business. I imagine every business's goal is to do better than you're doing right now. So if you have just maybe 100 people or 50 people patronizing you, I'm sure you'll be happy if you have 1,000 people or more patronizing you. And that is what you can get with the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. Don't worry about the long English, about the big words that is there. And that's why we're trying to break it down for you this evening, that this will help you reach more people on the African continent. The population of Africa is over 1 billion. Picture 1 billion naira in your account. Now picture people, over 1 billion people. That is what we have in Africa. And that's a market you get access to. I'm going to come to you now, Chioma, and just talk more on the movement of goods parts, really. Across borders, there's the challenge of customs and all that. So does it mean that with AfTA, all of those headaches of customs, let's check what you have. Do you have document for this? Does it mean that it is gone, reduced?
Okay, so the objective is to ensure that trade happens as seamlessly as possible within the African states. And so all of the African countries who are signatories to the AfTA agreements are working towards a common tariff. And so in the sense that where you are moving your goods across whatever countries that you have standardized tariffs across those nations. It is not going to be done arbitrarily. It is going to also be very clear to all the players in the within that space that these are the tariffs that you are expected to pay from border to border, and in the sense that the regulatory bodies within the ATCA agreement also come together and agree on the kind of regulations that will happen across the transportation of goods from A to point B. And then so basically we're talking about lesser restrictions across the continent, common tariff regulations, right? So in whatever currency it is, you are sure of what it will take you or what it will cost you to move your goods from one country to the other. And it's not a case of having different kinds of rules applying for you within Nigeria, and then you step out of Nigeria, another set of rules, you get into Cameroon, another set of rules. This is what AFCA seeks to eliminate within that agreement. So we are moving to that particular place where you can sit down in Nigeria and actually predict what is going to happen where you are trading with your partner in Kenya, eliminate all of that unpredictability within that space. So that's where we're heading to.
I love the sound of that, really. I'm able to trade with someone in Kenya. Wow. I can trade with someone in South Africa. Just picture you have to tell people, I'm sorry, I need to sort this deal that is coming from Kenya. Imagine, you hear that, you know that your business has gone, upward. But let me come to Olushola. By the way, Emmanuel Onifade has since joined us. We'll come to him in a moment. But I don't know if you want to add to that, but I want to speak to this point. When you define or break it down, the acronym AFCFTA, you see Africa Continental Free. So does that mean it is free to move the goods? Please tell us that back. I like free things.
So that free then refers to the fact that across Africa, they are moving goods across Africa. There are no tariffs or there are control tariffs. So because it's a single market, so it's a free trade. For example, we have free trade zone even within Nigeria, whereby when you produce from those places, those locations, there are certain tariffs that does not apply.
Yeah, there's a LFT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine the entire continent having that trade structure. So if you are coming into Africa, regardless of your point of entry as an exporter, it's a single tariff, it's a single market. Either you're coming through Benin, you're coming through Ghana, you're coming through South Africa, it's a single market. So it's the same tariff. Once you enter that market, you've entered that environment. So that's what the free means. So the benefit is that there's free movement of trade. When there's free movement of goods, free movement of services, with that is also the movement of all the factors of production, labor, capital. All these are impediments to growth, impediments to development. If you take those barriers out, then the Africa itself becomes more competitive. It becomes as a block, it becomes more enticing to investment.
Yeah.
You see almost FDI flows into Africa. But once you break into that market, you know that as a producer, a manufacturer, a service provider, you have some competitive advantages. Then the another point I quickly want to make with regards to PAPs that I think is worth noting is that as is presently for intra-African trade, imagine I'm taking some goods to maybe Gambia to sell.
By the way, PAPS is a payment system for after.
Yes. Yeah. Imagine I'm taking some goods to Gambia to sell. And in Gambia, I think they use Dalasi, in Nigeria, Naira. So if I can't change to Dalasi, the next currency is the USD. And that happens very frequently. You see intra-African trade happening in US dollars. Can you imagine what gives value to a currency? It's demand and supply.
Indeed.
So we're trading within Africa, we're giving value to the USD because there's a demand that activity, demand for USD that activity is generating. So just think through that.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the things that PAPS is meant to take out. So the goods originates in the local currency and settles in the local currency. of the beneficiary.
Fantastic.
So you take out that is almost unbelievable that we trade within Africa and we give value to
Oh, dear.
develop.
It's time for us to wake up, and that's the essence of this conversation. We need to wake up because there's so much. But and you keep wondering, why do some of these businesses out there come to Nigeria, the same Nigeria that people are always complaining about? But you see businesses every day, another building, another business registered. That is because there is gold in this market in Nigeria and Africa at large. And we don't want you to be blind to that gold. You know, there was someone who was saying recently that a business that started in the 80s, he had an opportunity to be a part of it, but because he was short-sighted, he moved on, or he looked for other things to do. Today, that business is almost worth trillions of dollars. And imagine if you just had 1% stake in that business. And that's what we're talking. That's why we want you to get on after. Get your business ready. Begin to, think global in the African way. And that way your business can do better. Let me see if Emmanuel Onifade can add to the conversation we're having. He joins us virtually this evening. Emmanuel Onifade is expert liaison officer at Keystone Bank. It's good to have you on the show. I know you've been traveling across states, so I know that you may be tired and it was a tough job getting on this, but let's get your thoughts really on after.
Yes.
And the part about the customs, the free trade agreement side, how goods can move between countries with AFTA and how easy it is, Emmanuel.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I thank you for this program, and I thank all the participants there because I've heard from whatever they've been saying before now, and they've been saying it the way it is. And that is why everybody in Nigeria needs to stand up to it and let it be a reality. It's not something of a fluke. It is something that has come to stay. And if you go by the way it is being planned, everything will go smoothly in this nation. For the micro, medium, and small businesses in Nigeria, if they put their heads together and come into this program called AFTA, it will be much more easier for them to run their business, because the two things, advantages relating to it, is what Afrimax, African Exchange and Import and Export Export Bank brought in, is the Africa Free Trade Zone, and then the PAPS, that is Pan-African Payment System Scheme, which are the two things. If you run your transaction in a free trade zone without all the issues you normally have from the custom, even from port of delivery, the custom, the cost of funding, the cost of movements, the tariff involved, if those barriers are already been taken off and a smooth run, it will encourage them to be partaker in that line of business. And after taking out the time to run the business, what they're after is the returns, which is the money they will generate, the incomes. After remove their expense, they must have incurred relating to it, that this is what they're able to make. And that is where PAPS also comes in, for them to have a smooth payment of their proceeds for goods they export out of Nigeria, just like the way NIPS run in Nigeria. That you don't have to go to other banks before you transfer your money to other banks. Just stay within your house, initiate your transaction, get your alert, confirm the recipient. That is the way PAPS will run too. You don't need to be in Ghana or Gambia. Just initiate that, yeah, I have done my transaction, I offer my NXP through CBN, and then your payment will come in truly. And then through the conversion, you don't need to eliminate, because I've said, dollar issue. So the demand for dollar will reduce in this nation. Then everybody who comes to town that, so if I can carry out my transaction at my domain and I can get my payment from either Ghana, Gambia, South Africa, and the North African countries. So there's no need for me running around without just following what is expected of me. So that's what I see about this program that is being in place now. So the moment we focus on it, fine, Nigeria started 2021. The moment we place our hands in it and we follow through, everything will be there, and then we have a smooth runs of this micro, medium, and small enterprise in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for that one. So you heard that, and I think it's just tops up the conversation we've been having about after the benefits, how it actually makes sense. There are a lot of things we've been doing before now. You just sit back and wonder, why are we stressing ourselves? You want to do a transaction in Africa, you have to go to America first to get dollars before you do your transaction. So let's make life easier for ourselves. But there's a point I want us to make as we wind down. By the way, this conversation continues next week. We're going to broaden the conversation and speak to specific issues and be able to take your messages and calls as well. We'll walk you through the process, how to get your business ready for investment as well, because you might need investment if you want to play on a bigger scale. So these are the things we'll talk about next week. But I want to talk on the job creation aspect, because it's not everyone that has a job. It's not everyone who has a business that can participate in AFTA. So there's also the potential, I imagine, to create jobs, promote labor mobility. And let me come to Emmanuel Nwalo on this one. Is there an opportunity really for me as a job seeker, someone who's looking to further my career within AFTA as well, Emmanuel?
Yeah, sure. I mean, these are the values that AFTA brings, because like we said, you talked about over 1 billion people involved, right, in terms of population size of Africa. So what that means is that, the demand for product and services is going to be there. Now, these products and services are going to be produced by human beings, okay? So what it does is that now you're going to have businesses thrive because of this huge opportunity. We're talking about market now. Now, the upside is that you're going to have plants, you're going to have businesses, you're going to have, increased operations around production, right? And this increased operation is going to be handled by, it's going to be run by human beings. So because of that increased capacity, businesses are going to have to, increase their scale and have people, work in these places. That is so it has that potential, to increase employment, right, because of that increased activity around production.
All right, thank you very much, Emmanuel. We're winding down in about a minute, but there are two questions. I don't know how we can squeeze time and take it between Olushola and Chioma on this one. First is PAPS online real time? That's one of the questions. And how is exchange rates determined between countries of trade? That's also another question from the same person who's watching us virtually. I don't know who wants to take it. We have a minute to go.
Okay, so
it's a gentleman, ladies first.
Okay, is PAPS online real time? The answer is yes. Like I said, we have infrastructure going on within the players in within Africa to make sure that payment happens. So we have banks who have also signed up on different kinds of applications to ensure that payments happens when you have trade with your counterparty, in the next neighboring country. And all of this is not happening behind CBN.
Yeah.
The central banks are signatories to PAPS. And so they are the governing bodies behind who are enabling payments happen. So in the sense that you here in Nigeria, you have a good that you want to send over there to Gabon. And the Gabon Central Bank is a signatory here. Okay, so payments will come from Gabon to his central bank, to our central bank, and then to you here in the Nigerian currency. So yes, payments will happen when your trades, are concluded.
We have to run, but quickly, how is exchange rate determined? Is there an easy way to answer that?
Oh yes, it's determined by the exchange rate. There's something called the cross rate.
Okay.
So the cross rate is the exchange. For example, I'm Nigerian, she is CD Ghana.
Yeah.
There's a rate that Naira holds to $1. There's a rate that's so by that you work out the rates, the equivalent rate between Naira and dollar.
So nothing to worry about. It's transparent.
Nothing to worry about.
There you go. We have to anchor at this point, but not to worry. We're back next week with more on just how you can go global. We want you to go global. It is our desire. I'd like to thank you so much, Chioma Uzoma, who's from Echo Bank, Olushola Gabriel from Polaris Bank, Emmanuel Onifade joins us virtually from Keystone Bank, and Emmanuel Nwalo from Fidelity Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, Thank you so much for your time on the show. And I'd of course like to thank the production team, Bolanle Oyemi, who's Director, FRC and Lagos Operations, Maria Woma, Assistant Director Programs, Latif Olatunde, Daniel Kuye, Idowu Eusebio, and Ruwal Aladejo, all of the engineering team. Thank you for making this work. Until next time, when I come your way with another refreshing conversation, don't forget to always make profit in whatever you do.